What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I want to talk to you guys about the all-access Dominic Breazeale versus Deontay Wilder recap, okay? Now, they, to my knowledge, only have one of these, and they have what they've done is the all-access dailies, where there are little short 10-minute segments in between, and they had a couple of those, and I know that the first, or probably the only, all access was decent. Okay, it was decent, and I call it decent because it wasn't really as balanced. Before I go into it, it was more of mostly Deontay Wilder versus Dominic Breazeale. You know, I know these guys have a lot in common because the incident involved them both. So, but overall, it was good. It started off with Deontay about 4 years ago. Actually, it was 4 years ago. On the 13th of 2015 of May. And they asked him what his overall goal was. And, you know, the young Wilder stated that he wants to be the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Now, you know, it's one of those things where they kind of revisited how he was then. And they started off last year at the Fury about, the recap on what happened in the fight. That was pretty entertaining, because it showed that Wilder was anxious, and as he admitted that he was trying too hard, okay? He was trying too hard to land those knockouts because of the eagerness, and a lot of it was the inexperience fighting someone like Fury. Well, the thing about fighting Fury, who really gets you prepared for Fury? So, I have to retrack on that, because you don't. There's no sparring guy that really gets you, or that I don't feel that can emulate Fury's style. You just have to know that awkwardness, that quickness that he has, and he was rather elusive that night, and I think that he got a little boastful and got caught. But how Deontay explained it was when he finally calmed himself down, he was able to get that first knockdown in the 9th round, and then the following one in the 12th round, which everyone thought Fury was gone. So, of course, that wasn't the case, and it was a draw. And he recapped on that. After that, it went to his trainer, okay? And his trainer, JD's, he was stating that that he said he wanted to go back to the basis. So when he said he, I'm assuming he said Deontay. So that answers a lot of questions there. So I guess for whatever reason, Deontay Wilder wanted to go back to the basis. And of course, we all know that Deontay admitted that he got away with a lot. And he blamed it on because he was getting away with just pure power. And obviously so, as arrogant as it might seem, but that's the truth. He was getting away with actual power by itself, by just catching guys. Regardless of the opposition, he was getting away with that power. But I think the Fury fight woke him up. I'm not 100% convinced that was his own decision, but as JD stated, that Deontay wanted to go back to the basis. And if he did want to really go back to the basis, it was because Tyson Fury got his attention. And honestly, I think Luis Ortiz should have got his attention with wanting to go back to the basis of boxing and wanted to do things the way you should. Because according to his workout regimen, he was only doing sparring and hitting the mitts. He wasn't doing all that other stuff. You know what I mean? He didn't do road work because, and then at that time he was complaining about, oh, I'm so tired. Oh, I really don't want to do this. I don't like this type of work. I'm putting my body through this. I don't like this. I'd rather be home with my family. Well, if he felt that way, he should really appreciate going back to the basis and what he does now. And he looks like he's put on more weight. And then after that, his father came in, and his father, gave his backstory, which was a great story because his father's a pastor. His father's a word of, he believes in the word of God, and he agreed with some of the things that Deontay Wilder went through and how he's similar, or how Deontay Wilder's rather similar to him. And he told everyone and explained to us on how he only made $640 some odd dollars every 2 weeks, and his mortgage was like $5, and he had 4 kids, and he had to balance out certain things. And back to Deontay was stating that it was things that he wanted as a kid that he couldn't have, simply because his parents didn't have that amount of money, with the kids and everything else together. He couldn't get those things. But Deontay was saying that, he was thankful for that type of role model and how sheltered they were, and they went to church 10 years straight, and that was something definitely relatable to me because I had that similar upbringing with that type of, church background. So I could relate to that. However, his dad said he was always outspoken. So that tells us, like, well, hey, he's been a loudmouth for a while, and expressed what was on his mind. And then it finally comes over to Dominic Breazeale. And Dominic Breazeale was working with his trainer, working on new techniques. He was doing jabs, changing stances in the sand, and he explained on how he got into the boxing world, because he was a football player and he once had a tryout for the New York Jets, which was a big thing. Because not everyone gets invited to a pro team like that. The New York Jets, that's big, And after that, they really didn't go into detail on why he stopped playing football. Because at 23, you don't stop at 23. Maybe the age he's at now, sure, but not at 23 years of age. So that was really I think they kind of, severed his story plot. You know what I mean? The story that he had, about his early life in football. Because, if you get called to play for the Jets, obviously you didn't make the team if you've been playing football. But I feel they should have explained that more. I think that should have went into play. But I understand they only have so many minutes. But I think his story was cut short. But he did jump to that till after that. He was convinced by a recruiter or a coach that to start this boxing program, to turn athletes into boxers. I remember him saying to turn someone into an athlete. No, he was already an athlete. He was a football athlete. To turn a football athlete into boxing. And if you guys can remember, if you guys know that boxers, a lot of people that should be boxers are playing football. They decided to go another route, not the other way around for Dominic Breazeale. And he really didn't believe it was possible, but he went for it anyway to find out he was a pretty good prodigy, okay, with this training program, and he learned that throwing a punch, throwing that right hand, knocking someone out, dropping someone was a lot more satisfying than throwing a Hail Mary. So for that reason, he won, and he's been in the sport for 10 years. However, they did recap on the Joshua fight and how he learned from that fight and how he's improved, and that was his only career loss, I feel that, of course, we covered the, incident in Mississippi or Alabama, rather. I keep saying Mississippi, but Alabama. But it was kind of unclear to what that was. Then, of course, they recapped the incident and the arguments between the first press conference, between, the introduction for these guys, the official announcement of these guys actually fighting on Showtime once again, when Wilder, of course, skipped the DAZN deal, which actually cut Breazeale out of the deal, which if I'm Breazeale, I'm pissed off because I could have made a lot more money from DAZN because they would have offered more money for him, possibly, right? But anyway, you know, it goes back to Wilder, and Wilder's day off, he goes to Montgomery. He drives 2 hours to Montgomery, and he visits some civil rights movement groups, and those guys showed him, you know, the monuments in Montgomery of, you know, the civil rights movement and everything that was going on at that time. And they really were trying to encourage him to keep doing what he was doing, because either it was by accident or not, or just by pure emotional outbreaks, it did create a movement. Now they're trying to steer that, and I know what the guy was doing ahead of that civil rights movement group. He was trying to, you know, encourage Deontay Wilder, like, hey, you know, with your platform and with the people that have eyes on you now, try to put in a word other than what you did that night. To this day sounded good, but it did not clarify or explain anything. And he said, well, I don't have to explain something that's understood. Well, you know, tell someone to look it up. No, you're supposed to do more than that, because you're supposed to want someone's attention. You don't supposed to just shout, okay, about to this day. To this day what? That's what Radio Raheem was referring to. So they recapped that, and, you know, and people were coming up to him saying to this day, because he has got famous for that slogan. So that was actually intertwined with that desire for the guys in the head of the movement to, you know, get with him, to encourage him to do something for the greater good, which Deontay Wilder has promised to do. What else? He stated, you know, Deontay Wilder did make statements, though, saying, you know, racism and what our people had to go through to get to where they are in this country. Now, that, I feel, what he explained in that 10 seconds was what he should have explained at that post-conference when Tyson Fury was saying what happened to his people, and that angered Deontay Wilder, because he was like, you come from another country talking about what happened over there, but something had happened over here, which should have been explained at that time with Radio Raheem again. Okay? But he was trying to say things had happened over here for a lot longer than it happened over there with my own people. And that's what I'm trying to convey to you. So you're telling me what happened, what you've been through. Hey, I also had that same thing happen to me and my ancestors. So he did say those type of things, that he doesn't tolerate racism. He doesn't, you know, he is thankful for where he's at and where his people's at. And he hopes one day there will be a miraculous change with his people. And he just hopes to be there to see it. Now, it was a good closeout. One thing I did forget to add about this, he did spend a lot of time with his kids. You know, he took them on a picnic. He took his wife, you know, on a jet ski, which I thought was pretty cool. Beautiful lake. So it was an overall good All Access. But I feel it just was centered on Deontay Wilder a little bit too much. I know he's the champ. I know he is the focus. I know he's the favorite. But I still feel that they should have focused on Breazeale a lot more, especially with his, you know, the football and all that. But other than that, it was a good show. And I know this is getting lengthy, so I'll wrap this up. I will talk about the daily ones in another segment. But you guys tell me what you think about the All Access show. I'll leave the link below so you guys can check it out. So if you can agree with what I do, let me know. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been counterpunched. Peace.